Hi, everyone. So it's almost 4:03, and I think we have to give people a few more minutes to trickle in. Good evening, everybody. So it's 4:05, and we suspect it might be a low attendance meeting today, maybe related to the holiday weekend that is about to start. So we are going to go ahead and start. Thank you to everyone who has joined so far. Maybe some more people will come in later. But welcome to the May 2022 CAG meeting, which I believe is our 21st meeting. I hope people are doing well, or at least okay. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Desiree.
Thanks, Paula. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, oh, perfect. All right, great. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. I am Desiree Gazzo, Community Engagement for the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project. I am with HNTB Lero, the Program Management Construction Management team. I'm joined here today with some of my colleagues from HNTB Lero, the PMCM, as well as DDC, of whom we're working for, and who is leading the project on behalf of the city. So without further ado, as Paula said, this is meeting 21. Very exciting. It'll almost be 2 years. So that's really exciting. We've come a long way with construction, and we have some, new things to share today. So again, the project area overview, I'm not going to go over that. The ESCR focus area topics. So we introduced these last month, and then we had received the kind of a list of concern area topics from you shortly after that meeting. So I did take a look at these, and we tweaked a couple of them, but generally they all pretty much line up the same with the items that were in that list. So I am, so we did kind of keep many of them the same. And I think, just an update, and I think Paula had mentioned that you're going to go over some of the items that were on that list in the second half. But we do address some things here. And then I think Parks and DOT were responding to some of the other items that were in that list, right, Paula? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, lovely. So to get into the project area overview, for project area 1, the thing that's different here, or the item that's different here, is that we're really going to see the waterfront work begin. We'll have more on that in the next couple of slides, but that is perhaps the new item for project area 1. For project area 2, Astor Levy Playground is open, so that's really exciting. It opened on, I think it was May 13th, was the official opening. It was a Friday. We're very excited about that. Just the one piece that is not in yet is the sliding gate. So that will be delivered hopefully within next month or a month or two. Over 1,000 feet of flood wall have been installed to date. For parallel conveyance, we had the April 29th meeting. I know with DEP, some of the folks that are on the call were able to attend that. So thank you very much for, for coming. We have both the live recording and the presentation slides up on the ESCR website under the presentations, where all of our presentations are. So you could find that there. So we'll get into the construction progress and approach now, broken down into the different project areas. For project area 2, again, Astor Levy is open, so we've taken that off of the active list. Again, there are a few little punch list things remaining and the install of the gate. But really the focus now is to complete the first part of phase 1 of Stuyvesant Cove Park, north of East 20th Street. So right now they're working on the seat wall construction there and just overall the site kind of restoration. I have a couple of pictures in the next slides. So that's, in this area over here. For number 2, the East 23rd Street intersection, again, ongoing utility work and the flood wall construction there. So now the flood wall is up at Astor Levy here, and the flood wall is up at Stuyvesant Cove Park here. So now it's, to complete the jog here to connect the two flood wall systems there. So that's what's going on in that area. Again, at 15th Street, which is off the map here, but in the Con Ed facility, there is still some sewer coordination work there. And some water main work. Again, that's localized to within the Con Edison facility there. And then the more pile installation work is going on, again, under the FDR ramp here, or rather under the FDR adjacent to that exit number 7 ramp. And that's happening down here. And we'll talk about what's next. So here we are, we put a blue line here, which shows us at June of 2022. So again, that the Astor Levy Playground flood wall gate restoration is finishing just about, on target. We're very pleased with how everything turned out. Again, I have a couple of photos. And then the next part, as mentioned, is to finish up that phase 1. Again, we are anticipating that it will finish up before the end of the year. Potentially the site restoration would finish up towards the end of the summer. And then the plantings, they have there's a time frame of when you can plant trees and shrubs and plant material. And that's really kind of towards the fall. So then it will be planted in the fall. And then the next 2 items are the second half of Stuyvesant Cove Park and Murphy Brothers Playground. So we'll talk about those 2 items after I show you some photos of the site. So right now here are the Astor Levy photos, Astor Levy Playground. So there are a couple of different items. There's the basketball court, the playground, there's some picnic areas, And then there were some improvements made to the handball facility there as well. So if you haven't been there, then you should definitely go ahead down and take a look. It did come out really nice. And then some construction photos. Here to the left is progress of the seat wall. That's one of many. There's kind of an undulating seat wall that kind of is like a ribbon throughout Stuyvesant Cove Park. You have the flood wall in the background here. And then this is just another image of the flood wall where the gate would connect here, and it has those elevation markers. I'm not sure if we showed a picture with the elevation markers yet, so I did want to just include that. So as we get into kind of what's next for project area 2. So I'm going to go back just a second. So in this, the project has committed to keeping 1.5 park areas open throughout the construction. So right now, we just kind of have half of Sty Cove Park open, in both Astor Levy and Murphy Brothers Playground is open next, and Stuyvesant Cove Park, phase 1 will be opening soon. So once the contractor moves into Stuyvesant Cove Park phase 2, we're going to see an update in the detour for the bikeway. And I know this is going to take a minute to digest, and this is in its draft form here. But we did want to bring up these items before they start, in advance of what they start. When they start, that was something that we've all been talking about together, as advance notice as possible. So we did want to start this conversation about what PA2 is going to be looking like, and how it affects project area 1 as well, because there will be now a disconnect to the to the full greenway here. So for a little while, or when Stuyvesant Cove Park phase 2 closes here, if you could see my cursor, there will be a loss of connection to the rest of the bike lane, to the rest of the bikeway. So folks won't be able to come up here because there won't be any way to exit the greenway here. So as a result of that, this over here is where the Con Edison pinch point is. And really throughout this, oopsie daisies, really throughout this stretch, there isn't any way to exit the greenway. The last exit here is at East 10th Street. And then you get kind of closed in this area here where you're against the FDR and the water. So when this Sty Cove Park phase 2 closes, we are going to have to take the kind of the pinch point area here again, and that's for safety reasons. We don't want anybody to get stuck in that area to create any unsafe conditions. Again, we could talk more about this, but we did want to introduce kind of what this new greenway access is going to look like. So folks would be, this would be kind of local traffic here until that greenway could open in phase 1. So it's likely that the park would open before the greenway, because there still has to be some work, again, behind the wall to get the greenway completed before the park. So later this year, the greenway will open, and then that will open up the greenway north of Sty Cove Park, and it will eliminate that detour that we now have, which goes to East 37th Street. So this year, there's going to be some changes with how our detours look in project area 2. And then again, that affects project area 1, connection here as well. So while the phase 2 of Sty Cove Park is under construction, and again, this part won't close until it's absolutely necessary to close. But when that closure does occur, and we will have more details to follow, then this part will be closed again. So this isn't happening next month. How I don't believe it's not anticipated to happen next month, but we did want to start the conversation that this is upcoming work. And we could take questions here just in a minute. So then this is what the overall project area 1, project area 2 Greenway access would look like. And again, it would change once the Stuyvesant Cove Park Phase 1 does open. So I imagine, we'll have more conversations on this as we move forward. So does anyone have any thoughts on this? I just don't want to, lose if there are any questions before we go on to project area 1, because that's a whole kind of another set of items. So I think you might need a minute, to digest this, but if there are any questions right now, we could take them. I see SM, Paula.
I don't know who that is, but go ahead, SM.
It might be Sandy.
Sorry, it's Sandy McKee. That's right.
Oh,
sorry. Sorry.
We were looking for you.
But I wondered, always when we make these closures, we're looking for a protected bike lane to replace where it has been closed. And it always seems like Avenue C would be a great way to make that connection. And even if Avenue C can connect up to East 20th Street, that would be something that would be extremely helpful. And so far we've heard that this is the DOT that's organizing this and that they haven't been able to come to any of the community board meetings so far. So is that the case? I guess both of those, if it's two-part question, sorry.
Right. So Avenue C does have the protected bike lane now. And in our conversations when we were sketching up this map, because we did have a call, with DOT, because this is it's a multi-agency coordination. It seems like the construction here won't allow the access to Avenue C, again, at least from this way. And then the second part of your question would be the connection between Avenue C and East 20th Street. And currently, and as it was in the past as well, it seems like DOT could not, they did not see that as a safe, they couldn't take a lane, and there weren't any other options to make kind of a dedicated bike lane. So we will bring that comment back to them again. And Neg usually is on.
I'm actually on the call.
Sorry, hi Neg.
Hello, hi everybody. Good afternoon. Neg Laku, DOT. Yeah, I think Desiree was absolutely right. Avenue C protected bike lane has been installed to a certain point. There's a few blocks that are still, I think it's between, 18th Street, 16th Street. There's some outdoor dining that's still being coordinated around, and some Con Edison work that's happening in that area closer to the project area 2, that we're waiting for that to clear up before we can fully install the protected bike lane. But it is in place. If you haven't been out there yet, I encourage you to go out there and give it a test ride. And then to the other point regarding the connection to 20th Street from Avenue C, we had looked at it extensively from a safety perspective and any alternative routes in terms of underneath the FDR. However, knowing that there is a lot of staging going on with the project, we didn't think there was a safe and clear path in that area, as well as the phasing as well. So I hope that answered all the questions.
And I guess the point being that we know people are going to ride that anyway, because it is the closest connection, that if there wasn't some mitigation that could happen there to allow people to go through, even if it's just one direction, either uptown or downtown, I think that was the concern that people had.
Yeah, I think honestly, we would prefer people not, and the only way we could stop people from doing that is having signage. That's extensively the from our perspective in terms of regulating and giving advice. It's typically with signage in this case. So I believe the signage is out there to tell people the safest routes. And our bike unit has been working very closely with Desiree and her team, going out there actually even to make sure that everything was clear and legible.
And we did hope that DOT would come and give a more complete view to the community board. We don't meet over the summer. This is for CB6. But just to have a kind of full explanation would be really great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we can work on that. CB6, I will make sure that the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's Office is made aware of that, and I can make sure somebody from bikes can also speak to that.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Robin, you have a question?
Yeah, hi Ned, I've ride my bike often on that Avenue C bike path, and it quite often there are cars parked in it. And more times than none, I've had to veer into the traffic. So I don't know what could be done about that. And there's also some areas that are not smooth, so potentially dangerous for flipping off a bike. But there's never a time I haven't been on there that there aren't cars parked along the route. So it's a good opportunity for the city to make some revenue there, giving people tickets.
Yeah, well, I think they're also exploring some type of vertical protection elements, whether it's a Jersey barrier or some other type of level of protection that's being explored at the moment. I know that for a fact that the bikes is looking at that.
I've mentioned this. I mean, the whole, the desire path notion, people are going to go where they desire to go. So I would just keep that in mind, even though you have your signage that there's potentially going to be some hazardous potential accidents along the route that you're trying to steer people away from.
Yeah, I hear you.
Paula, were there any others, or
Yeah,
should
I don't, any other questions? I don't see any.
Okay, great. So I think, this is the first time we're introducing this. Again, there's certainly more. We will mark those as drafts, the maps that I just showed, because they are kind of in progress. But we did want to introduce that, this is work that's coming up for Project Area 2. So for Project Area 1, for June 2022 construction activities, most of the items here we have already spoken to. The barge work is beginning. I have a photo. The first barge arrived earlier this week. Work did not start. The barge is not in use yet. It's just kind of parts there. But I do have a photo of that to show you in just a couple of slides. The Corlier's Hook Park, the temporary bridge install. So right now they've been working on kind of the ramps up to the center span. So the ones that are kind of on the edge of Corlier's Hook Park and the FDR Drive, and then in the Passive Lawn area. And then on June 5th, that is a Sunday, from about 12:01 to 10 a.m. Similar to when we dismantled the Delancey Street Bridge, they will assemble that center span of the temporary bridge. So that's the 5th. And then that week of the 6th, then the only small portion of Corlier's Hook Park that has not been fenced off yet is the flagpole area, because that was allowing access to the Corlier's Hook Bridge to get down to the ferry. So that week, the flagpole area will then be fenced off, and folks will be rerouted to the temporary bridge, and there will be signage for that as well. And then the Corlier's Hook Bridge removal will be towards the end of June, mid-July. That date is still being coordinated with DOT, because again, we need to get that FDR full closure. So we did send out the advisory for the temporary bridge full closure of the FDR. I believe it was last week or the week before. So then potentially starting in June would be the Delancey Street. There will be some Delancey Street utility work, but there may be some pile and abutment work to prepare for starting to build the bridge there as well. So again, that's potentially in June, but definitely coming up in the next few months. I believe, so most of the other items are the same. This map does reflect the extension of the greenway closures here, which were at Houston Street. Again, the work around Houston Street, which is kind of the phase one, should continue for about the next 2 months. And then it will, as our understanding, that it will be gradually opening kind of as, moving north from where they started the work and then are finishing up. And then the remainder of the shared use path or greenway will continue for about 6 to 8 months after that. Okay, so this is just the construction work sequencing, which we had in, I think at the last one or the previous CAG. So there's the East River Park work is basically broken into kind of the inland portion and then the waterfront portion. So right now they're working on the soil stabilization part. And then again, once those barges get situated, then they will start working on the removal of the esplanade, because all that work will happen kind of from the water side. And then inland, we have the mobilization and removals. And then the next step will be the sewer replacement. And that's that deep sewer excavation. So here are the construction photos. I know some folks can see the park from where they are and others cannot, but this is the Corlears Hook Temporary Pedestrian Bridge Assembly in progress. I know there was a question the last time we showed pictures of the temporary pedestrian bridge, if there would be taller, like a taller fence. So there will be an 8-foot kind of chain link fence, but the chain links won't be the standard kind of 2-inch by 2-inch. I think it looks like they're going to be the kind of a 1-inch by 1-inch. So it'll be a smaller knit, mesh there. So that will be on the bridge, because as you can see, this bridge has, openings, so that won't work over the FDR. And then this is the soil stabilization. I believe these are just the test pits here because the work didn't occur yet, but that's kind of the activity that's happening on site right now. And then this is the barge that came in today. And then this crane here will, again, once everything is in place, that crane will start with the work to remove the esplanade, so the demolition of the esplanade area. And then there will be another crane that's coming, which its main job will be to facilitate more of the material removal and material kind of distribution, so that there's cranes and they have different functions. But as you can see, I know we've been excited for the barges to come, because again, that will reduce the amount of trucking of material. So they have arrived, and we're very excited about that. So construction activities through 2022, much of the items we talked about, the deep sewer excavation, the demolition of the tennis building is still to be determined. Sorry about my cuckoo clock. The tiles that were removed from the tennis building, we talked about those. The contractor does have them, and we're awaiting Parks to come and pick them up, and then they're going to put them in their storage facility. So they've been very busy with getting the parks ready for Memorial Day, spray showers, pools, etc. So as soon as they're ready, they will come and pick up the tiles, but they have been on site to look at everything. So that soil stabilization process will continue along the waterfront. The demolition of the esplanade and then the barging activities will continue. We spoke about Corlears Hook Park, the passive lawn. The Delancey Street utility work will continue, and the reconstruction of that new bridge will continue this year as well. And And then another item that we haven't talked about is the Montgomery Street and Greenway flood wall construction. So this is a rendering. This is Gouverneur Gardens, and it's Montgomery Street and South Street. I think everybody's pretty aware of that intersection, and there's a parking lot here under the FDR. So this work will begin this year. Again, the pile installation, and then the building of the flood wall, similar to Project Area 2, those kind of same steps to build the flood wall, and then the flood gate here, and then that will cross the FDR and connect here with the FDR ramp, which runs along the Greenway. And so this is the southern portion of the Greenway, reaches kind of ABC from Montgomery Street north, where we actually have a flood wall. So this work will begin here in 2022, and we haven't spoken about that yet. So we did want to introduce that now. And then on the other side of the park, the shared use path work will continue. We spoke about that for at least another 6 to 8 months. Con Ed will be doing utility upgrades in the East 10th Street area. And then again, the timeline is a little bit to be determined based on how the Con Ed work is going, but one of the next steps for that area will be this Houston Street retaining wall here. So we have the image on the map. It's this number 3 over here. Right now, as everyone is aware, when you enter the site at Houston Street, you have to go down the 2 ramps. So with the rising of the park, you'll now enter the park at grade. So there will no longer be a need for the ramps there. So these retaining walls here need to be built before the soil is brought in to raise the grade. So all of the kind of items that hold the soil in need to be constructed before the soil could then be kind of put in this area. So again, we're introducing this work. We do not have an exact timeline for it, but we want to put it out to again start the conversation and start the questions of, what will this look like? How will this work? How will we access the park? We want to start having those conversations now, and it's probably not going to be tonight, all of the conversations, but in the next CAG meeting and in interim ones, we could start to bring up some more conversations and questions about this. The slip ramp construction will continue, and that was on the past slide too. That's ongoing right now, along with ongoing partial FDR lane closures. So those are kind of some new items that will be happening this year, more specifically than what you could view from the construction approach slideshow. So again, I know there was a question of what, how are we doing with construction? We are still on track for the summer 2023 kind of slide that we had in the construction approach. The link is here if anyone needs to take a look at that. Again, so we are anticipating that the southern portion of the park will, open towards the later part of next year. There were questions about Reach I and Reach J. As you saw, let me just pull up the previous slide. We don't anticipate there being work in, or rather up here within this year. Some of the, the work, again, the approach that was presented was subject to change. So the contractor is focusing on the portions of the park that we're in right now. So for, into next year, it looks like, or at least through this year, it looks like Reach I and Reach J will remain open. Okay, so I guess, well, let me just go through the next couple because these will go quick. And it is, very much in line with what we're talking about as far as access and signage and safety and the current park conditions. So we did meet on Monday with several CAG members and council member Rivera's staff, and Paula was out there too. Thank you so much for coming. And we did talk about several items which were in the list of items that was sent over by the CAG just after the last CAG meeting. So our team is working on the items here in coordination with Parks and DOT, again, to improve the conditions of the existing paths, including drainage. And this goes for both at Houston Street ramp and at the track area. So where we have put new asphalt paths, we are looking at the conditions and working to improve them, adding entrances to open amenities, adding more wayfinding signage. The entrances to open amenities, we are coordinating with Parks. So as soon as we get all the entrances open, as soon as the contractor can install them, then we're going to make like a wayfinding map or an access map. We have one in progress now, but we're going to make sure it has the entrances to the ball fields on there too. So it's a really comprehensive map, and add the wayfinding signage on site as well. Reviewing the lighting and to supplement where necessary. I mentioned the access map. There were some questions about plant salvaging, so Parks is taking a look at that. And then together we're trying to work on getting the water fountains working. We're coordinating that with Parks as well. There was a couple of questions, and we've talked about the Esplanade, the vehicular traffic on the Esplanade. So we did mention this at the site visit, but for those who were not there, the project that's happening north of East River Park, the Con Ed project, that project has been going on since before the construction at ESCR started. So the Con Ed folks there, they do have permits, or there were some parking permits granted by Parks for them to park there. So there are a number of vehicles that are permitted to park in that northern portion of the park. Parks is having ongoing conversations with Con Edison to make sure that they're meeting the permitted requirements, educating all contractors, both the Con Ed and ESCR, on safe driving within the park, because there will, at times when the cars and trucks cannot pass through the greenway because of the work that's happening there, they will need to take the Esplanade. There were some additional signage items that we had talked about at the last CAG meeting. So in advance of the Delancey Street Bridge work, once we have to do more closures there, we will take a look at that signage and supplement as necessary. And then again, for the upcoming Project Area 2 Greenway closures, we will need additional signage for that. So I think we can now take questions, and then we'll close the meeting with the environmental updates.
Charles, then Robin.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. The soil, what are you doing with the soil, and why is it being removed, and how much is being removed? Can you tell me?
That's a very broad question. I cannot tell you exactly how much is being removed, but the soil that's on site is, again, we've talked about from the test pit locations, all the soil is being sampled, and then it will be removed either by truck or by barge once that portion gets approved. The method of removals is based on the soil classification. I think last time I had the slide up about the non-contaminated, contaminated non-hazardous, and then contaminated hazardous. So depending on what the soil classification is, then that is how it's determined to be removed. And that will continue for, throughout the project. That's what the contractor will follow as he's going through the soil removals. I don't have, Charles, if we can answer the questions, but I think I don't have the specific details of how much is there. So if you'd like, you could submit the question and then we could get back to you on more of the specifics.
But why is it being removed rather than just being covered up with 10 more feet of dirt. I mean, what's the issue there?
The reuse, there are, and I could send the slide that we've presented before. There are certain characteristics of soil reuse, and it's not just based on contaminated, non-contaminated, hazardous, non-hazardous. It's if the soil has too much organic matter and it can't be compacted correctly. It's if it has debris. We have a slide that goes into all of the requirements for soil to be reused on site. So if the soil doesn't meet those specifications, then it needs to be removed from the site. So it's not just contaminated or non-contaminated. There's a number of items that dictate whether or not soil can be reused on site.
But the soil will be in the air at some point as you're removing it. I mean, is that not a hazard to some people? How is that being dealt with? Is the soil going to be watered down, or how does that work? I mean, if it has to be removed, there must be a reason for that health-wise. And if that's the case, is there an issue with the soil being put in the air as you're removing it? And it seems to be a lot of soil.
Sure. There's, it's not, like I said, it's not always because the soil is contaminated and that's why it needs to be removed. So the contractor follows whatever the protocols that are set by the city, state, federal regulations on how to hold and move soil from sites. As we've mentioned before, active piles, right, don't always need to be covered. If they're active piles, they do need to do, watering activities. Should should there be, again, hot days, hot windy days, it depends on what the environmental, conditions are. And the contractor is following those. As far as, removing the soils, we have the air quality monitors in place. We have folks that are monitoring the work that is out there. That's why they have the silt fences up to deter soil movement. So there are all of these items in place that the contractor is following for the soil removal. You can't, there are construction sites everywhere, and you can't, they have to move the soil without it being kind of in a bubble. So there will be soil movement. But again, through the techniques that you mentioned, the wet down, if there's if it's, if there's dust in the air, et cetera, and then the monitors would pick up if the levels were increasing in the air.
But the soil is being removed for environmental reasons. I mean, that's the only reason it's being removed, right? I mean, what
No.
else? Why else would you move
No,
soil? That
Desiree just said that the part of it is determined on whether the soil is actually usable in order to be, that can be reused because of the compactable or compactability of it. So it's not necessarily environmental. She's explained that a few times.
So there's there's a number of reasons to remove it. One of it is environmental, and the other is because it's not compactable and it's been there for 30 years or 50 years or whatever. So
Charles, I can get you, we only have about 15 more minutes left.
Yeah.
So we can follow up with the details of what kind of soil can be removed on site and the specifics of what soil is there now and being removed, et cetera. But I don't have all of the details right here.
all right, thank you.
Robin?
Then Wendy.
Thank you.
Hi, Desiree. I have two questions. One, it has to do with the Montgomery Street work on that flood wall. When you said this year? There you go. When?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. When exactly do you think that might happen?
It should be happening. We're hoping it's happening in the next couple of months. There are some, again, it's adjacent to Gouverneur Garden, so there's lots of coordination items and things that need to happen before the work can begin in that area. So as we have a better idea, then we'll provide the dates that work will start happening.
Yeah, I don't know if you're also talking with Basketball City and with the people that are running the boat rides. I know that that's a big concern for that community on that, the noise. So I'm sure there's going to be a coming together of all of that. I'm sure you're in touch with them about that. Okay.
We did reach out to them because when we were actually walking down there the other day, they were having this huge like Disney screening or something, and there were all sorts of security, and they really do a big to-dos down there. And so we will need to coordinate their schedules and their events there and the traffic that's generated by that, with the work that's happening there. So yes, we
Yeah,
reached out to them.
I'm just anticipating a lot of community, being upset about noise and stuff. And then I have another question going to the Houston Street picture you showed us.
Oh, yes, sure. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, this is a really incredible rendering, but what is new about this exactly?
So these are the access ramps as they stand.
Right.
Right now, right, you walk through here and you go down a ramp.
Right.
So once the park is raised, there will no longer be any ramps in this area. You will just walk out onto the lawn, onto the sidewalk here, and there'll just be and I don't know the height of this retaining wall. It's we can find.
It's an incredible, dangerous crossing, as you could imagine. Now, as it stands too, I don't know. Boy, I would love to see those exit ramps be buried underneath an overpass, but
I don't know if we have control over that.
yes, right. Okay. I'm just, when I saw this, I thought, wow, because I'm just, I see it's very dangerous now as it is for pedestrians. So maybe there's a way, I don't know what that, maybe the DOT would put, well, there's a traffic light there now. Yes, the traffic lights will be back up. Is that right?
Yes, the traffic lights are there. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that just is concerning to see such close proximity to the park with, vehicles coming off a ramp at 40 miles an hour. So I don't know what can be done about it.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Wendy, then Christine.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, sorry.
I have 3 quick questions. First one's regarding that soil. The mayor just said we're expecting a heavier hurricane season. What methods are being done to protect the drainage, the drain system from receiving a lot of that soil and also from it going into the river? What kind of erosion control or barriers, mud, debris, etc., is in the park?
Great. That's a great question, Wendy. It would be helpful for us to put together maybe a little bit more in-depth slide on that, since we have talked about the air quality as well. There are like stormwater guidelines, or kind of DEP has oversight, DEC has oversight of those items, and they come to the site and review all of the mitigation techniques, and that includes kind of covering the drains with like a silt, a barrier, like a fabric barrier, with kind of hay bales, so that the water can enter, but then the sediment from the construction site doesn't enter. It includes the tarping of the materials. Once the barges are in place, the soil they'll be moving out the soil, quicker than what the trucks do. So there are a number of different items, the silt fences that are along, the Esplanade area right now. So there are a number of items that are being employed. I did hear that as well, that it would be a more significant hurricane season as well. So I can definitely come back with more like a slide on that if we want to talk more about that.
I would like to know more about it. It's a big concern. Also, the parallel conveyance, you have said previously, it's probably starting sometime this fall, right? That work?
Yes.
And what is the western boundary of the protected area for the parallel conveyance?
Yes, and apologies, I have not gotten to that email yet, but if you look on the flood map, the flood maps that we have, I don't have it in this deck, but it's in the parallel conveyance map. There are 2 flood lines. There's a 2050 flood line, and I don't recall what the second flood line is, but the larger flood line, the FEMA flood line, that is the extents. That's the western extents.
That's not very clear. Would you mind providing a clearly labeled slide that shows where's the western edge of the protected zone? That would be very helpful to people, especially along Avenue B and C. My third question is about CB3. We were told we were supposed to go to those meetings, that this would always be a two-part process. This just got put in place last month. It didn't happen this month. I don't know if people in this group know that Pier 42 is now pushed back. Maybe you noticed it's no longer showing in green on the slides here. What other key points were made at that CB meeting that people here don't know about? I mean, are we going to do that process or not? That to me is like a, you know,
Wendy, again, we mentioned this via email that CB3, how they do their agendas is how they do their agenda. If they just decided to not discuss ESCR, that's to their discretion. Pier 42 is not ESCR, that's EDC. So of course, we always continue to encourage you all to attend the meetings, but not necessarily with the expectation that there's going to be ESCR specific updates. So if there are questions related to Pier 42, we can assist in facilitating those offline, but that, you know, how CB3 does their agenda has nothing to do with Desiree, it has nothing to do with us. This is just how the communication goes. We did this to reduce repetition. And if they decided not to do that on their agenda this past month, that's up to them. That's their right to do so.
all right, Terry, you did not say that. You said we're going to start this process. Everybody was told that's
This
the
was said
system.
numerous times. We've also said this on email as well, Wendy. Do you have any additional questions?
I'll put that aside for now so Christine can ask hers.
Christine?
Yeah, hi, thanks. And I just want to start by really thanking KEG and all the agencies that came out and participated in this walkthrough. I think it was very productive, and I sincerely hope that we can do more of that, because I think really having on-site walkthroughs, it's just so much clearer and easier to communicate, and also to be a little bit more proactive and do them before things change radically, so that you can really get the experts in the room or in the park that use the park every day, get the input. With that being said, this slide that shows that there will be a retaining wall installed at ball field, whatever ball field it is, 4, 5, 6. That will also mean that that area will have to be closed. Is that correct, that assumption?
No, so it will impact the ramp in that area. So these are the details that we don't have at that moment. Because the Houston Street access will remain open. It will not, the ball field, while that work is happening, it'll be adjacent to or against the FDR. So right now the shared use path or the greenway is right here. And then the ball field is kind of, you all know, it's right next to it. But the retaining wall would happen essentially in the footprint of where the ramps are right now. So that would just be, again, similar to how we have kind of one ramp closed and another ramp open. It would be, again, I'm imagining, and in conversations, it would be something similar to that. So there would always be access into Houston Street. Again, the details have not been worked out of how this is going to work, but we did just want to prep the community for that kind of next piece of work. So again, this is definitely not starting next week. I could, if this is started next week, I don't know if I would be able to come to these meetings anymore, but this is upcoming. We still have about 2 months for that Con Ed work to happen there, but we did want to start talking about this and figuring out, yes, how is access going to look here? How is the access to the ball fields going to work? But that shouldn't impede access to the ball fields. The ball field will remain open, as promised. I mean, if certain work needs to happen where a ball field needs to be closed for a short period of time, maybe, but generally the ball fields are staying open, as we said, into next year. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. So, Desiree, thank you.
Yep, there's just a couple of more slides. The Parks Neighborhood Recreational Resources. We did add that list of additional resources, which included kind of the dog run, some of the other items that Parks had provided to our ESCR resources webpage. We did submit to them the request to add it to their Parks Neighborhood Recreational Resources website, so we can follow up with that. And again, we already talked about the CAG area topics of concerns. The quarterly, my apologies, the quarterly report for quarter one for 2022 for PA1 has been released, and it is on the website. We did include that on the agenda, the link to that. And again, the barges, just while we're on the environmental thing, which I did mention in Charles's question, we'll be able to remove non-contaminated and contaminated non-hazardous soils. For project area 2, a quarterly April update, the levels of particulate matter surpassed the PEL for the 15-minute TWA. The 24-hour TWA was not surpassed at all for the month of April, but the 15-minute TWA was surpassed on 5 occasions for a duration of 15 minutes or less. And then at the Solar One monitors, the levels were below the PEL for the month of April. Again, the construction activity is being closely monitored. For project area 1, the April 2022 update, there was not a surpassing of the PEL for the month of April for the 24-hour TWA, time weighted average. The level of particulate matter did surpass on about 8 occasions. And that was at Air Quality Monitor 1, which is the monitor near Montgomery Street in Reach A. And that was for durations varying from 15 to 30 minutes. And again, that's where the construction entrance is, and the trucks have been informed to not idle while they're waiting for that gate to open. And then the PM10 levels, same thing at that Air Quality Monitor 1. And again, the construction activity is being closely monitored. So we did want to, there has been some movement of the air quality monitors from what we had shown in the past. And again, we did say that as the construction work picks up, that the air quality monitors would be moving around the site. So this is the April monitoring locations. These are actually interim locations in this next month. There are going to be air monitors added, so there will now be more than 6 air quality monitors. So we'll provide updates on that as they are installed. So as the construction activity is increasing, the air quality monitors will increase as well. So this is a temporary slide here. This just shows the April monitoring locations, I guess April and maybe May. And then there will be more added in the next month or so. But this corresponds with the readings that we provided today. Really quickly, and then we'll take the last questions. For hiring compliance, we had on the 25th, sorry about my clock again, the spring virtual information session. The presentation will be available on the website under past event recordings. It was really great. Many thanks to Bowie Studios for putting it together, and Lesson, Gaspar from Lesson was amazing at resume tips and tricks. If you need a new resume or to update your resume, I highly suggest you watch it because it was really phenomenal. So we're looking to do, again, more of these types of sessions. if anyone has any thoughts or suggestions, please send them our way. We tabled in the community on the 24th, so we had a very busy week this week at Avenue D and East 6th Street. It was really nice to speak with the people in the community there. We would like to come to tenant associations if you would like us to attend. If you have any suggestions for tabling locations, please let us know. We'll be out every couple of weeks. And we have been receiving some complaints about contractors speaking with the community. We just wanted to point out that the contractors should not be your source of information. The contractors are directed not to speak with the public because they don't have the up-to-date information. They aren't in all of the meetings that are happening. They kind of work on a day-to-day. They are not directed to speak with the public. So if you do try to reach out or know someone who's reaching out to the contractors for information, they have been instructed to not respond. So they're not ignoring or being rude. There's just been a lot of people being really rude to them. They're doing their jobs too. That's what their living is. They're trying to make a living. Everybody's trying to make a living, and they shouldn't be criticized for the work that they're doing. So this is typical practice for all construction projects. We have our community construction liaisons. We developed these signs and we're going to post them throughout the construction site. So that way contractors can just kind of say, please reach out to our community construction liaisons. Here's the information, because we really don't want anybody to be hostile to anyone, the contractors, the community members. Everybody is just trying to do their job. So if anyone has any thoughts or comments on that, and sorry, Paula, I know we started a couple minutes over, but I think this is the last slide. So we'll take the final questions.
Thanks, Desiree. Go ahead, Wendy.
So back at one of the hearings, Lorraine Grillo couldn't answer what kind of fuel is being used in the barges and the barge deliveries. So any update on that?
I was not aware, sorry, that question was asked. I can follow up with you on that. I know we had talked about the fuel for the diesel fuel for the construction vehicles on site the other day, but we could follow up with the barge fuel as well.
That would be good. Are there any mitigation or measurements being taken from barge related emissions?
I could follow up on that also.
Doug?
I'm not sure exactly where this question should have gone, but my question is because I actually had a bunch of people ask me recently about the Macy's fireworks this year and how the whole project may or may not affect, that special day.
Yeah, that's a great question, Dov. And actually Solar One has brought that to our attention as well, because I think there's a lot of activity that usually happens in Sky Cove Park. So we are, that has been, again, brought to our attention, but we haven't, I haven't been involved anyway in conversations about that. So we will, since we now are almost in June, which is just amazing to me, we will take a look at that a little bit closer, but thank you for bringing that up.
I appreciate it. If we could get back sooner than the next meeting, because that will be like right before the weekend. That would be great. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Michael, do you have a question?
Yeah, just really quickly. And Desiree, I had emailed this to you and Joyce about a week or so ago. I think you might have still been on vacation, which I hope was fun. But do you know if there was any, have there been any incidents on site with construction workers as far as accidents or whatnot?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I followed up with Joyce on that to see if she had heard anything from our construction crew. I have not heard anything, and I will follow up personally tomorrow to see if there was anything, but I have not heard, and I mean, we would hear if something happened. I haven't heard anything about accidents or anything, worse on site. So I'm not sure what, I think you said there was a memorial.
Yeah, it could just be a random place that somebody put it for. It's maybe a car accident or something, but yeah, there's a memorial to somebody hanging on the fence right by the entrance at the end of Cherry Street.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
believe it was related to the project.
Can you hear me? Yes, this is Joyce.
Joyce. Hi, Joyce.
Yes. Yeah, hi. I do follow up with our residential engineer, and he also do not know any like incident related to our project. So it might maybe some community memorial.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
Any other questions?
Just where's that park map that was updated? Where is it on the website? Can you tell us?
The park map hasn't been with the access points.
The recreational map, the other.
Oh, okay. The map has not been updated. We just added that we have a resources page on the about page. I could put the link in the chat as soon as I stop sharing my screen. Yeah, so it's been added there. We have the link to the parks recreational page, but we don't have another kind of alternate recreational links within our website because Parks was kind of managing that. So we didn't know exactly where to put it. But if there's another location where, you suggest it be a little bit more appropriate, but hopefully Parks can get those items, those links on their webpage as well. And again, if there are, as we mentioned, any tabling location suggestions or any suggestions in general, please send them our way. And Paula, I don't see any other.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions either. So thank you, Desiree. Let's take a minute and a half bio break before we transition to the CAG only portion.
And thank you all city agencies for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. We'll just get started again. I think just to start, I know that there were a lot of questions during this last portion. And then also we know that there's some CAG members who are not here. So once the video is up, which should be soon, we'll email everyone with the presentation as well as the video in case folks want to watch it, so we can get any questions that folks may have. But if there aren't any outstanding outside of questions around the soil and the type of fuel being used on the barge, if there are any, and of course the alternates to the bike rerouting for NPA2, are there any other questions that folks have right now that we can note for DDC?
Well, that western edge of the protected area, to have a clearly labeled slide regarding what that parallel conveyance would do. My other question about that would be, they're rebuilding all the sewer pipes under the park. Is that part of the ESCR budget or the parallel conveyance budget?
Okay.
I thought parallel conveyance was part of ESCR, but I could be wrong. So we can clarify that.
It's a separate budget. But, you know, if the work's inside the park, because when we had the parallel conveyance presentation, they showed all the pipes under the park as being already done. And so I'm just wondering, which part of the project is it? Of the overall project? Which part budget does it come under? Thank you.
Robin?
Yeah, I think it would be really helpful for them to really outline the plan for Montgomery Street. And also I would recommend or suggest that they have their outreach community people, you know, work directly with the Gouverneur houses that are down there, because I just see that as a potential nightmare. And I know that's something we always talk about. Also, I would love to see a more detailed rendering of that wall now at Houston Street and the height of it, and to alleviate any concerns that cars are going to come flying off the ramp into the park. So,
Okay.
and you know, yeah, that's my fear. Thanks.
Right. Anything else for now? I mean, we still have a few more items we can talk. We want to do a recap of the walkthrough and get folks' feedback. But I know since all of that information is fresh in everyone's face, I wanted to know if there's any other if there are any other items.
I would ask also, how do we know where they're going to be tabling? How does the community know it's a place to go get answers at this time and day? Is it being posted anywhere? Or is it just people who happen to walk by?
Okay.
It seems like the latter, but we can look into it.
I think that'd be really helpful if they're going to all that trouble, then they could maybe get more, you know, more people would stop by.
I will also, I just want to add to that, just for the limited amount of people that's on this call's information, that we actually invited them to come table at one of our recent events, and apparently they only table during the weekday, not on the weekends. So so that might be an issue there, because, you know, a lot of people use the park on the weekends because it's their days off. So if they're only tabling during the weekdays, which I understand, you know, it's their jobs and whatnot, and the weekends are probably overtime for them that the city doesn't want to pay. But it doesn't look like they're doing any tabling on the weekends.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. And then we could see, yeah, I think they should at least, I think we could figure out, or at least make the request that maybe, you know, once a month out of their schedule, they try to do some sort of tabling at times that are more suitable. Yeah, that's surprising. But then we'll find out how they're letting people know where in advance that they're tabling. And then if folks do have suggestions, Robin, you mentioned Gouverneur houses. If there are other suggestions as to where they should be tabling, please let us know so we can pass that on to DDC.
Can I ask one more
is-
question?
Sure, but actually, could I ask? I just want to ask a question first. Is that something? I mean, Michael, I imagine, yeah, your event was on the weekend, so I imagine that there would be would you all want to make a formal request to DDC that there be some tabling, at least, they pick, one weekend day, or some kind of suggestion as to them having just more flexible hours for tabling? Is that something that the CAG would be interested in?
I mean, I guess it really depends on, other people. And again, there's not a lot of people on this call, but other people who run park groups like myself or run community groups like myself that do community programming. It's typically on the weekends. And our event was on a Sunday, which was probably another deterrent. Maybe if it was on a Saturday, it might have been a more of an option for them. But, because our park is in a very Jewish neighborhood, we tend to like to do our events on Sundays so that they're open for everybody and there's no restriction for people to come. But I mean, again, maybe it's something to poll people with over email, since this is a very lightly attended meeting.
Okay, definitely.
Robin?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, there isn't, we could create an event. They could create an event. We can put them in a community center or a community park so that they're visible, and we can promote it. We can let the community know that this table's out there for information about this work that's starting. So it doesn't have to be an event that already is taking place that they're fitting into. It seems like that would be helpful to be proactive and have them say, we want an event, where can we do it? We would help them make it happen.
Wendy?
And just wanted to say, there's a pile now at the riverside that's about 30 feet high that's uncovered. And it looks like that's where some of this barging will be connected. It's not covered. It's kind of windy out there. I just want people to know it might be kind of dusty if they're out there for Memorial Day picnics.
All right, so we should move on to just the walkthrough. Again, as Desiree had mentioned, and of course, Paula had notified you all, there was a walkthrough that was planned for this past Monday. I was not able to attend, so I will let Paula and those who were in attendance just do a recap for the group, which will again also relay via email to the CAG members who are not here.
Yeah, I'll just really briefly kick it off, and then I'd like if Camille or Wendy or Christine Dotz Romero, if they want to add anything. But as was already mentioned during the previous part of the meeting, I think it was really helpful to talk about this, to talk about the different issues on the site. It just made the conversation much easier and clearer, and hopefully this will set a precedent and more of these can happen in the future. But yeah, Camille, Christine, or Wendy, is there anything else that you want to add and express to your fellow CAG members about the site visit?
I'll echo what Christine said. It was actually really useful to be there on site with them and to be able to ask questions directly. One of the things we learned is, although there's no seating in the grove at 6th Street, and that's one of the biggest groves still in the park, they will put benches in, as Christine asked for, but not picnic tables, because they're worried about fire in that area. But they do have people with barbecues, et cetera, further north. It was the tree situation. If people are as concerned as I am about the oak trees that are just north of the track area, they did say that each tree will have a soil test around it. If there's no Con Ed piping down there and roots aren't in the way, that tree will get a protected fence and will stay for a while longer. The track isn't closing until summer of 2024. And some people know there was a sinkhole in the field number 7, and that's supposedly repaired and open again. However, the fields are being opened and closed all the time. And sometimes it has to do with track or, scheduled games. But many times I've seen fields locked off, nothing happening in them. And I see people picnicking right along the edge where sometimes it's a little dangerous. So the thing though, that one thing we can all watch for, if you see private vehicles on the Esplanade, they're limited to 5 miles an hour. They're supposed to have their lights flashing, no more than 3 minutes idling. So we're supposed to report them if they're doing anything worse. I'm actually quite concerned about all the vehicles on the Esplanade. So whatever we can do to help them stay going very slow will be good.
Thank you, Wendy. And Camille chimed in via the chat that she found the walkthrough useful. Christine, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think I expressed my feelings about the walkthrough, and yes, it was tremendously useful. And again, I just would like to see more of that happening.
Yes, we will impress upon DDC that this should not be the last time.
Hey, Paula, Tara, can this be something that we set up with them like once a month or twice monthly? There's a walking tour on a set time, and people could, you could rotate who's incoming.
Yeah, we can ask them. I can see them, pushing back on the frequency you're suggesting, and maybe they would push back on establishing a regular time for a walkthrough, because we might have to be more flexible about like when it makes sense. But yes, we will bring that up with them.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting a regular time, so then it's in a schedule. Obviously it's a schedule, and that maybe that's maybe it's not. Yes, you get why. You understand. Thanks.
Any other thoughts or questions?
Well, I see Tara asked about, is asking Camille about her concerns about the field in the chat. She might not have seen it because she's on the phone. And I don't know, maybe we could have a CAG meeting in the park and everybody could go on the walkthrough during the regular scheduled time.
That is a possibility. We could try to do that. I mean, it's hard to get all of everyone together. I mean, we're unfortunately still in the surge, but I think, the hope is that we'll hopefully be able to do these meetings in person. Okay. All right. So that's okay. All right. Thank you, Katie, for clarifying on the walkthrough access. I'm sorry, unfortunately, I had another meeting on Monday. I wasn't able to attend the walkthrough. I too would like to attend the next one, and hopefully that will be soon. So if there are no other, I guess also, were there any next steps as it relates to the walkthrough that DDC indicated that or any next steps that were going to be taken following the walkthrough, just for those who weren't there?
I don't think anything other than what Desiree mentioned, for example, like wayfinding signs they're going to work on with parks. So I think she covered it during the meeting.
Okay. All right. So great. And then I know prior to the meeting, Paula did send you all basically the priority document that we started developing after you all took the survey a couple of months ago. With that, we wanted to make sure that also how all of this is aligning with the commitment points from the commitment letter at the very many years back when ESCR was approved, and just putting that in. So we are in the process of doing is getting updates from the different agencies as it relates to those commitment points. We did get a response from Parks as it relates to their items. We are actually going to go back to Parks to get updates on the DOE portions. And I believe we're still waiting word from DOT on their pieces. But I know Dove had a chance to look at the document and put in some comments and questions, Wendy as well. I think what we wanted to do for at least this, the remainder of the meeting is really go through the document just because there's some points of clarification that were requested of DDC based off the conversations that we had at last month's meeting. And then, I mean, I guess from there, any other additional questions that might be coming up, and then we can figure out what we want, just continue the conversation with DDC and getting responses and seeing what's ahead. Clearly, there was some information that was discussed today that we will be following up with them as it relates to Montgomery, Houston, as well as the bike path on PA2. But there were also the items that were outlined in our priority document that we also need them to give us some more information on. So yeah, let's go ahead with that. Paula, do you have a link to the doc in the chat?
No, I'll put it in there now.
Okay, just so we can all follow along. Thank you. Okay, so just temporary amenity wise, as far as the passive lawn, we did discuss with DDC that you all had mentioned wanting to see some more activation in that space. And they actually asked, well, what kind of activation? So what suggestions you all might have around what can be done in the passive lawn area, just to help enliven it, make it a little bit more welcoming. That also might help dictate any types of mitigations that can be done regarding shading. I know that was also a concern that had been raised. So, but that was our response from DDC in discussing this.
So Wendy's putting some thoughts directly into the document, but does anybody want to share thoughts verbally about the temporary passive lawn?
I wonder if there's any dog people here who have been taking their dogs down there, because I see the dogs coming back very muddy, the people very tentative along the edge. I don't really see people using it except for dog related, but maybe it's different. Is there any work going to happen that's going to help it be less sloppy? People don't want to get their feet all muddy.
All right. So again, no need to respond now, but if there are any other, if people do come across any types of suggestions, or even if they're maybe even for, if organizations want to partner to do some activation, I think that would be a great idea as well. So again, that looks like the next thing, just as it relates to open streets, we're still waiting to hear back from DOT. So we're going to skip that portion for now. And then also, this is something that Diane had mentioned, just concerned about the creating a longer running route, since they're basically like longer distance runners are really maybe not too keen on wanting to run on a track. I guess if they also put, DDC wanted to know if there were any suggestions. Again, does not have to be ironed out now, but in this, maybe we can go back to Diane with this specifically as well, but just thinking through a potential long distance route that runners can take that would be safe and in good condition. And that, excuse me, then as it relates to the temporary amenities, pardon me, excuse me, the just commitment letter points, there were quite a bit of parks work that needed to take place. Actually, is this, oh yeah, it's all, yeah, that needed to take place, especially as it relates to schoolyards. So the DOE portions of this document, again, we have to go back to Parks to get responses. We were looking for a DOE contact, but Parks apparently is managing that piece. But starting from point 25 on, just some additional things that were outlined in that commitment letter as it relates to compensating for amenities lost in East River Park. All of this is, we've gotten updates here with accompanying documentation. So, feel free to all take a look at that. It looks like the temporary solar lighting is ongoing. It looks like there are some additional barbecue areas. I know that this was also a concern. And I mean, I guess we might find out this coming weekend since it's Memorial Day for the unofficial start of grilling season. Anything that you all hear as it relates to maybe there not being adequate grilling or maybe potential for additional, or it might be sufficient, any type of feedback that you might hear from any of your community members, please let us know. But that work has been completed. So we just want to make sure that those, that those amenities are sufficient as we move into the summer.
Well, Tara,
And
I can tell you that Corlears is already seeing an increase in hot coals being dumped in the flower beds and on the lawns because there's nowhere to dump the coals after they barbecue. We don't have barbecues in the park, but people are bringing in their own portable barbecues, and then they just dump the coals.
Okay. That's something we can alert GEC to, absolutely. And because also that's probably not legal either for them to bring in their own. Not that I want to have people.
Yeah, I would say in some parks, what they do is they just provide metal containers where people can actually deposit those coals. And it might be something we should encourage parks to install in Corlears.
Yeah, if it's allowed, that's the thing. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what the park rules are. If it just makes more sense I would think it would make more sense to provide those receptacles. But if they have other reasons that prohibit grilling in that park, then I don't, then maybe it won't be ideal. But we will find out. Robin,
Well, I think
My
sorry.
understanding is,
Sorry, Christine.
Yeah, I'm just saying allowed or not, there are parks rules, and then it's what people do in parks. And grilling is something that people are very passionate about, and they will come and bring their own. It was happening all over East River Park too, areas that are not designated as barbecue areas are used as such, and parks looks away most of the times and doesn't enforce that. But I think instead of getting like more space ruined, we should just work together with the agency and suggest
the receptacles. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Robin?
I was just going to say this, I've noticed the spillover for the lack of East River Park space and further west. So like Gulick Park over here, people were barbecuing the other evening. I mean, you could understand wanting to be in a park and having a barbecue. Yes, the rules are, from having worked for parks, that the only day you're allowed to barbecue is July 4th, unless there's a designated barbecue area. So I don't know if we get parks involved in this. I've been asking for parks to come to these meetings and come to the park CB3 meetings, and we haven't seen them. So they are absent. So if we can get them to come to meetings, that would be great, and present to us what their plans are as the warm weather approaches. I don't know if that's something that the CAG committee can be part of.
Wendy?
Even last year, I was starting to see people grilling on the sidewalks as well. And it just makes me wonder if there's a way to add a sticker to local vendors who are selling charcoal about proper disposal. I actually think many people don't know they're supposed to go into a metal bin. And I think we're going to start to see stuff all over from this reality. So maybe there's a way to do it at the other end of the pipeline and add some kind of a sticker or sign where charcoal is being sold close to the park.
Right. I mean, that's a good idea, but I don't know how, I don't know how, what putting stickers on products that aren't authorized by the producer, how that would fare. But I do ultimately think that, making sure that at least receptacles are made available, and reducing any type of regulation on park side, and really just allowing folks to do the grilling safely is probably a better request. So we can go ahead with that. So then, just like with the playground associates, it looks like they are currently hiring those additional playground associates per the commitment letter, ensuring that the maintenance and operations staff are there. I know that CB3 parks, they do get park representation that does, at least last month, they were getting feedback on maintenance issues, and it looks like they're working through those. So that seems to be ongoing. Then it looks like, again, just additional resources related to community gardens. It looks like that was also presented to Park CB3 last spring. So I know that there were, I think, concerns about whether or not that's adequate, or if they're even just seeing it. Any feedback that you all have related to the additional resources for the community gardens, please let us know. And it looks like the RFP around the bathhouse is in process. And then it looks like, yeah, and it was like it was released, and they're just reviewing submissions at the moment. So that's where things stand as it relates to temporary amenities. The construction scheduling and phasing. I know that BDC, Desiree, her presentations, do we have any feedback as it relates to how the construction information is being presented right now? It seemed like today seemed pretty digestible. What we can do is just make a request that they do keep that similar format, but then, give us like a longer, a 6-month timeline. I know she went through specific items that are going to happen through this year, but it wasn't as detailed as I imagine you all would like. But just making sure that we, at least like what's being presented right now, I think they are, DDC and HNTB Lero really want to know that at least the format of what's being presented is suitable before they can go into more detail.
I think that one of the things I've mentioned in the past is a simple spreadsheet where we break down, like, this is phase 1, this is our, like, each type of task that's being done. And then you get a column, saying when's the estimate date of completion, where we are on chart, where it is, and then what percentage is done. And it would be a quick snapshot of the entire project. And something like that just gives so much more information than how it is. It's nice how it is, but it doesn't really give that exact feedback, on everything. And it also tells us, what's coming up. Like, this is estimated start date. This is, initially projected end date. This is the actual end date, and a percentage done will give us, I think, a lot more data. It's a simple spreadsheet, and that one slide I think would be very useful. In every project I've ever worked on, there's always been a matrix, something like this.
Yeah, there's always like a Gantt chart. Yeah, and I know that was something that we had suggested to them. But yeah, no, we can continue. We'll just say that we want the Gantt chart. But then overall, I think they would like to keep that format. We'll talk with them. They seem to like it. I can get it in terms of just like for the immediate future, it being very digestible and not being very detailed. So we can ask that they can continue to do that, but for purposes of the CAG, that you all really would like to see something more detailed in the form of a Gantt chart. And I think the sample of it is, we have a link in that document to what we would be proposing. So if you all want to take a look at that. And then moving on to the environmental health, air quality. I know that there were some questions today that were raised around the soil removal. So we will follow with DDC on that. then, of course, when you just mentioned some loose soil that's along the riverside, so we will also make note of that to DDC as to how that's being managed. Are there any other questions as it relates to current construction conditions and air quality?
I thought it was interesting that the monitor that's at Montgomery Street had issues. And they're getting vehicles to stop idling there. So, sorry. But I would say if people also see idling there, that would be a good place to, you know, say something. There's a lot of people living so close by, and that spiked over. Did it say 5 times on that slide? I can't remember.
Yeah, and I think they just released the report, so we should all, we'll distribute the link to the report for you all to take a look at, and if you have any follow-ups, please let us know.
It would be great if they put some air quality monitors closer to where people are. So the closest one right now is like in the old tennis area, but where people are in the park, it might be a good, you know, closer to the construction edge, might be more helpful for people.
Wendy, the one that's in Corliers is right next to East River Housing.
That's good.
All right. And then lighting and safety. So I think we did put in that request as listed in terms of like additional, the concerns about the Houston path, the call boxes. I don't think, Paula, we received a response from DDC on this, right?
I don't think so.
All right. And then what I guess one thing too, I'm not sure if this was addressed in the walkthrough, but the circulation plan for the 6th Street entrance, did you all walk that area?
Yes, Wendy or Christine or Camille, can you comment on that?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating it? I was.
The circulation plan for the 6th Street entrance.
It's pretty confusing right now. What they were saying they were doing would be putting in more lighting, for example, more clear markings about which gates are open. But to me, I was there with high school students who felt very uncomfortable, and you know, we all have to watch out for each other. I don't know what else to say. I am worried though, when Robin was talking about, I'm sorry to backtrack a little, Houston Street, the future park, people are going to be walking across the bike lanes right there. And it's not shown in the drawing. So if they do a new rendering, can they actually conclude where the bike lanes go or the future greenway it goes? So it's clear.
Yeah, well, sorry, I'm just, I think Paul and I are.
Yeah, I'm writing.
I'm right.
Know where to write it.
Yeah, and I always write in my notebook. Sorry, I just habit. Yeah, a more detailed run. Okay, so Robin had mentioned the more detailed rendering, and then also like and make sure that that also includes the bike paths.
Hey, it's Robin. I'm sorry. Maybe that's the first time I've seen anything like that. I know that there's been so many renderings, but that's the first time I may, correct me if I'm wrong, please, and anyone who's on the Parks Committee, Michael maybe, but I've never realized that it was such a go from the bike lane to the cars exiting right into the park. So it just seems a little bit like an accident waiting to happen. And
yeah, we've never seen that, but we've been told that before, that it would be, you know, that the need for those long, tall, hilly pathways down into the park wouldn't exist anymore because it would be at grade, but we've never seen what that would actually look like.
yeah, and so I suppose there's nothing to be done with the design, but I certainly don't know if, I think this would have been brought up in meetings to revise that, because it looked more like you go on this big hilly walk down into the park, but not that the park was right at the same grade as the cars coming off the highway. That's a little scary. Plus bikes, as you're now pointing out, Wendy, but yeah, thanks, Michael.
Yeah, but I think it's also important to note that the highway is parallel to the park, not so the what's coming into, and what's, you know, the fear, I think, of the cars going into the park are the cars coming down Houston to get onto the FDR. The cars coming off the FDR are going parallel to the park.
But they run the light sometime, especially if traffic is backed up on the FDR, cars come wishing over that exit and back onto the FDR. There's now a flag person stationed kind of by the down ramp, and they're pointing people to those slip ramps that are now somewhere near 6th or so. And that could cause additional slowdowns or things that make drivers feel like, oh, I should just blow through this light. I've almost been hit more than once there, and I'm careful. That's walking.
I think we're talking about that. We're talking about two different things. Then we're talking about the fear of cars potentially hitting that retaining wall or launching over that retaining wall, and we're talking about pedestrian safety of people crossing the street as cars are coming off the FDR. Those are two completely different things, because a car potentially hitting the retaining wall or going over the retaining wall, theoretically, most likely would be coming from Houston, not coming up the FDR. So the cars coming up the FDR, that's where the pedestrian safety issue is. So it's two different issues that I think we're talking about.
Right, and also now we're talking about adding in carbon monoxide that's going to be spewing directly into the park, where before it's there, but it's a little far away. I mean, you know, so that's something else to think about on that immediate area. But you know, we all know
there's a full stop. There's a full stop when cars come off the FDR drive.
There's
a full stop there that cars have to make before they proceed.
But not when you come out Houston, right? When you come up Houston and you get that light, you curve around, right?
There's a full stop. It's stopped for cars if they're exiting the highway parallel to the FDR drive. There's a full stop there. So cars have to stop before they proceed.
Only if you get the light, only if you get a red light though, right? Camille, only if you get a red light. Same thing off the house, and only if you get a red light.
The lights are on the opposite side, but if they're exiting, there is no light for them there. There's an actual full stop sign there. They have to stop. If it's the exit off parallel to the FDR drive, there's a full stop there.
Right, coming from the north. Right.
Yes.
Yes, but we're coming from the south, and you're heading up the ramp, you make a left turn to cross over, and then when you're on Houston, you're toward the park.
And that would be your first light, right? Once they turn, that would be their first light.
Anyway, it just is shocking to see that cars will be at the same level as the park. That's all. You know.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to jump in. I raised my hand, but I think seeing it from the perspective that she showed it, it's just like, it's a different perspective. It's a perspective of a car approaching the park. And I think that's why it looked so jarring. But I wanted to really say something about the circulation at the track. What Parks also has still saying is that they're still working on creating other openings for people to make circulating in and out of there easier. But there was nothing concrete that we really that they pointed to, but they just said that they're considering creating more entrances / exits at 6th Street and the track area.
Thank you, Christine.
I also asked that they make the hand railing accessible to people at Houston Street. I don't know how they can do it. But right now, if you're disabled, you have no handrail at Houston Street. It's been like that since December. And with more and more people coming into the park, and I've definitely seen people in wheelchairs there, that narrow entrance, I really hope they improve it, especially if that's all we're going to have for 5 more years or whatever.
All right. And then I think, is this the last, oh no, not the last point, but just the climate impacts during construction. So we did have EM come last fall to present. I mean, we could have them come back. I don't think that they'll have anything other than what they presented. Unfortunately, any updates, because it doesn't seem like there's like a real, these are just, it's just preparedness discussions that they have. They are willing to go on request to any organization, any building who wants a preparedness discussion. This was the message that was conveyed to us. I do think what we could do is recirculate the video from the presentation that they gave the CAG last fall to see if folks have any follow-up questions. I do believe we did ask if there were follow-ups, and no one really had any follow-ups at that time. But maybe there is now that we're actually in hurricane season. And then any requests that folks may have to have emergency management come and do individual or smaller presentations, discussions with groups. Again, they are open to doing so. They would just like to, they just need the request.
Wendy?
So I am on Arbor Day. Emergency management gave a wonderful webinar. They actually called it a tree webinar. And it was all about the value of trees for our health and our environment. I wonder if they could come in and talk with us. We're down 600 trees or so now. What kind of mitigating factors can we develop? Because between now and the time that this construction is all done, you saw 4 years for the parallel conveyance. We have no interim storm protection. And we've already gone around the block about that, but maybe EMS has some new ideas that can help this community prepare. I think it's really important, especially we're at the 10-year mark of Sandy. And we've already had this warning that this is going to be a heavy year. We saw Hurricane Ida last year and how much that did. So I think it's a really good idea.
So,
right.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of suggestions that have been made during this meeting, and really appreciate everybody's really thoughtful input. I just want to be clear, though, and all of it has been, what is the word? Good, informative. But every suggestion, I hope, that is made by 1 or 2 individuals does not represent a request by the CAG for that agenda item or request to whomever to take place. So in particular, I would like to address the idea of holding a CAG meeting outside. I think most of us who have been meeting for the past 3 years, one place to another, understand that the larger the group, the less that can be heard in outside areas. This is also particularly, I don't have them myself, I don't think, a very, very bad allergy season. So I would prefer not to meet outside, but definitely support the idea of walk-alongs to point out specific things for groups of people as they perhaps can be arranged. Most of the people in this meeting have been very quiet and listening, but being quiet does not mean that everyone is in support of everything that has been said or requested to be done, I should say. So I just wanted to point that out in a general sense. I wanted to specifically focus on holding a meeting outdoors, where even the environment might distract from the importance and the detail of the conversation, along with the allergy alert that has been higher than it has been in years. And that's all that I want to say. I want to thank everybody for their input.
Yes, your point is well taken, Io. And as much as I would like to meet outside, just from that walkthrough between mask wearing, that is sadly still needed, and all the noise from construction and traffic, it was hard for me to even hear everything on the walkthrough. So
Yeah.
I kind of agree that an outside meeting is probably not the best idea. But we will continue to advocate for more walkthroughs.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, in the interest of not keeping you all, it looks like, I mean, just to go through the last 3 points, improved communication. So we had talked a little bit about tabling. We'll learn about how they're communicating out their tabling. And then we will put this out to the CAG in email to see if there is just an overall sentiment that they would like to see more flexibility in the tabling as it relates to just them dedicating some portion of their tabling to doing something on the weekends to accommodate any events or groups that would like that. But we'll put that up to the CAG. So then parallel conveyance, again, that meeting was last month. If any feedback or any questions, please email us. I know that there
did add some comments on that, and I do think that it's something that we should definitely look at more. I would advocate that as a group that we should consider, because it's going to talk about several years of construction on our streets, right in front of our buildings. It's going to affect our traffic, our breathing, and I think that the information that was very good, but there was a lot of information that was not there. And I definitely think we have to flush that out a lot more. And I do think that this is something that's going to affect us, I won't say equally to the giant, the park being, but it's something that affects us very close to our homes, a lot closer to our homes.
All right. So I'm not sure, were there any additional questions? I'm not sure how they were communicated, if they were put in this document, or if this was something that I wasn't at
I did add, I added some comments at the end about, and I mentioned it to them there at the meeting about,
Okay.
about having basically again, a matrix, some grid that sits there and gives us actual dates, timelines, and, for when they're working, where they're working. So, we can know, right now it's just, we're going to be doing it, and they didn't tell you when, where, or how we're going to start doing construction.
All right. So we'll do some follow-up there. And then WMBE, again, I think we just put the question out to you all. If there's additional information that you all would like to have that you feel is not being presented, please let us know. And then the salvaging, we did give a rather large request to Parks last month about that. They did respond to us last month. And I think we all put it out to you. At the last meeting we discussed about, I guess, trying to figure out how we would want, or if there is a desire to have just regular updates from Parks, maybe quarterly, on any materials and the salvaging of those materials. So again, please take a look at this document. Add your questions, your comments. We'll send you some follow-up emails as it relates to some of the items that were discussed today. Do not want to keep you all any longer from your long weekends. We hope you have a great one, but we will continue this conversation virtually by email.
Bye, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Chat and this.